सोचो तो क्यों है आज सहम सहम पानी, ये चुपचाप पानी क्यों। चलो बदल दे ये कहानी कहानी, बचा ले निशानी हम। पूछेगी धरती तब कहाँ थे तुम, नदी रो रही थी तब कहाँ थे तुम। स्वच्छता और पानी, हमको बचानी है ये जिंदगानी।
सोचो तो क्यों है आज सहमा सहमा पानी, ये चुपचाप पानी क्यों। चलो बदल दे ये कहानी कहानी, बचा ले निशानी हम। पूछेगी धरती तब कहाँ थे तुम, नदी रो रही थी तब कहाँ थे तुम। स्वच्छता और पानी, हमको बचानी है ये जिंदगानी। है कब से नाराज गुस्सा गुस्सा पानी, ये क्यों उदास पानी क्यों। चलो बदल दे ये कहानी कहानी, बचा ले निशानी हम। पूछेगी धरती तब कहाँ थे तुम, नदी रो रही थी तब कहाँ थे तुम। स्वच्छता और पानी, हमको बचानी है ये जिंदगानी।
Drip, drip, drop, drip, drop, drippity drop, drip, drop, drip, drip, drop, drip, drop, drippity drop.
चलो बचा ले ये धरोहर पुरानी, ये तेरा मेरा पानी।
Drip, drop, drippity drop.
चलो बदल दे ये कहानी कहानी, बचा ले निशानी।
Drip, drop, drippity drop.
पूछेगी धरती तब कहाँ थे तुम, नदी रो रही थी तब कहाँ थे तुम।
स्वच्छता और पानी, हमको बचानी है ये जिंदगानी।
पानी
स्वच्छता और पानी,
पानी पानी,
हमको बचानी है ये
Sir, shall we start?
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So I'll just share my screen. So a very, very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us over a weekend. I'm Dr. Priyanka. I am working as Senior Research Fellow at ASCI, and on behalf of ASCI, I once again welcome you all to this third webinar series in our CVIS learning series of webinar. So, which is focused on used water management, strengthening the regulatory mechanism and performance of decentralized private STPs in urban India. So our aim today through this webinar is to discuss current policies, regulations that are prerequisite and that promote the provision of decentralized used water treatment systems in private establishments, the gaps that exist in the operation, and the steps, the actions which are needed to improve their performance both at city and state level. So before we go on to the technical sessions, I'm very happy to share that we received about 600 registrations from India and abroad. And our panel today has eminent speakers from both government and private sectors. We have with us today Dr. V.K. Chaurasia, sir, Joint Advisor, CPHEEO. We have Mr. Dana Kishore, sir, who is Managing Director, HMWSSB. We have Neetu Kumari Prasad, ma'am, who is Member Secretary, Telangana Pollution Control Board. We have Mr. Ramakrishna Rao, who is President, CREDAI, Hyderabad. And we have with us Mr. K. Bhaskar, who is Managing Director, Revolve Engineering Private Limited. So before we move on to technical sessions, just few clarifications that all the PPTs and the webinar recordings will be shared with you after the webinar. And to make sure that we are helping you as much as we can, we will appreciate you asking lots and lots of questions to our panel of experts. And so please use chat or raise hand option if you have any queries, questions, if you want to share any experiences, and also any other additional material if you require will be sent upon request. So now, before any further delay, I will pass on to Professor V. Srinivas Chari, sir, who is Director of Center of Urban Governance and CEO WASH Innovation Hub at ASCI. Request you, sir, to please set the context and invite our speakers formally. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you all the panelists. Thank you all the participants for joining this important session today. We believe this is one of the neglected areas that requires attention of various stakeholder groups, and we have chosen this particular topic very consciously. This is one area where we can actually do some interventions which are low cost but can give phenomenal impact on public health as well as environment. So before I go ahead with a bit of context setting, I think let's start with certain a few poll questions just to get all of us on the same page. So Avinash, can you help me with outlining the poll questions?
Yes, sir.
So question number 1, you can choose any of this. How many decentralized private STPs are available in urban India? It's a wild guess. 500, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000 to 10,000, more than 10,000. I think there's a problem with the first and second question, but so the answer is more than 10,000 private decentralized STP exists. Thank you. So this is a phenomenal number, often unregulated. Can we go to the next question? I think let people get used to this Q&A model. As per Environmental Impact Assessment Notification 2016, do buildings and construction projects above dash require on-site treatment systems? It means they require decentralized STPs.
We have
1,000 square meters, 2,000 square meters, 5,000 square meters and above. So many of you said it's 2,000. Okay, so the correct answer is actually 3, but we will come to that later. Next one. Again, separation of gray water and black water by the use of dual plumbing system is required for buildings and construction projects above a particular built-up area. So what's that built-up area? 20,000, 50,000 square meters and above 50,000 square meters. But the question is about having in a building dual piping system is mandatory so that we could recycle the water, use it for non-potable flushing application. So what is the threshold limit at which this recycling is mandatory? So many of you said 20,000. May not be correct, but it's a good attempt. So it's about 50,000 and above built-up area requires dual piping system as per the regulatory requirement. Next, last question probably.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. Now, projects above dash units require decentralized private STPs in Karnataka. It means if a particular building has X number of units, apartments, then they necessarily should have decentralized systems. Decentralized STP, sewage treatment plants. That's interesting. Since we have given you only 3 options, I think people have opted for one of these. Actually, the correct answer is actually Karnataka is pretty stringent in terms of the regulatory requirement. It's actually 25. Anything about 25 apartments, the pollution control board there actually mandates that they should have on-site decentralized used water treatment system, which is pretty stringent, and the performance of such systems are questionable. But I think this is just a warm-up to the conversation that we are going to have. So today what we are going to have is basically, as I said, how do we strengthen this sector, which is often not in our sight, it is often ignored, and which is unregulated in most cases. And today's conversation with the eminent speaker lined up is all about that. As I said, how do we strengthen? There is a regulatory framework working, which mandates decentralized STP, but the performance is still questionable. How do we strengthen it? What sort of institutional reforms are required? What sort of regulatory oversight is required? What sort of skilling is required is what we are going to discuss. Now, just to set the context, friends, used water management in our country is often dealt, and Dr. Chaurasia is going to speak about it at length later, through three options. You have centralized sewerage system with sewerage treatment plant or sewage treatment plant downstream. This is a very prominent model in big cities. Then we also have what is called on-site systems like septic tanks and pits. And for that, we need fecal sludge and septage management systems plus grey water treatment. Now, there's another important angle which is about in situ or point of generation treatment system. We call it as decentralized systems. And this is also pretty popular in our country. In fact, in South Asia, if you look at Bangladesh, Nepal, it is yet to come. But this is very, very common in India, where we have decentralized point of generation used water treatment systems. And that's a conversation we're going to have today. Now, this particular third option, we don't have a clear understanding. We don't know actually how many units are there. We don't have a database, effective database. It is often fall between cracks. Nobody regulates them. And many a times they are symbolic in nature. So to answer your question, how many decentralized projects are available? The estimations are in the range of 25,000 installations in our country. 25,000 installations and above are available in our country with an installed capacity of 8,000 to 10,000 MLD. So it means this is a phenomenal quantity of asset that has been created, but often underutilized or unregulated. And there's no standardization of technology, no standardization of operation and maintenance, no standardization in terms of monitoring systems. So today's the discussion is all about how do we get it? How do we strengthen this? How do we leverage this 8,000 to 10,000 MLD capacity to protect water bodies, to protect public health? Now, as all of us know, this sort of proliferation of decentralized STPs happened because of triggered by environmental impact assessment notification under the EP Act. Now, these private STPs are typically limited sewer systems within a small geography. It could be a gated community or it could be apartment with a decentralized STP. As I said, it could be a high-rise building, commercial, hospital, hotels. Now, because of the national regulation, many states have introduced state-level regulations as part of either by the Pollution Control Board or urban development departments. Now, there are also voluntary efforts because many apartment blocks are of the opinion that if they install this, the impact on the downstream will be less. There'll be less NIMBY, not in your backyard. And also some of them, because of the water stress, they use this water for recycling purposes. So there are multiple reasons why this sector, why this whole decentralized private STPs have proliferated in our country. And as I said, because of the regulatory trigger was a major trigger under the EP Act. As you know, there are three categories: category 1, category 2 buildings, category 3 buildings. Category 1 building in the range of 5,000 to 20,000 square meter built up area, which requires on-site system if there is no sewer system in place. Category 2 buildings in the range of 20,000 to 50,000, they require an on-site system for 100% capacity, and then they need to recycle it significantly for cooling tower applications, flushing applications, and then excess water can be flushed out. Category 3 buildings are pretty important, where dual piping system is mandatory. They have to use it substantially. And even if there is a nearby sewer system, it is mandatory that they have an on-site system. So these regulations are in place. The Model Municipal Act, Model Building Approval or building regulatory system also mandates on-site systems. Because of all these reasons, you have a phenomenal proliferation of decentralized STP, which we don't know much about, which we don't regulate, or we underutilize them. Now, this is a profile. We put together a profile of various states, almost all states in the country, where at what point that decentralized STPs are mandated in those states. For example, if you look at some states like Karnataka, the Pollution Control Board mandated 20 units as a cutoff limit. In the case of Telangana, it is right now Hyderabad is about 50 units. If there is a building with 50 units, they need to have decentralized STP. So different states have different requirement. And because of this regulatory push, that we have large number of STPs have come up. Now, what is the scenario on the ground? There are a couple of very few studies carried out. EVOG is one study which was very credible study. ASCII also did some studies in this space. Now, first of all, we have to say that no entity, neither CPCB or the state pollution control boards, maintain this data. They are mostly unregulated. Consent to establish is taken, but consent for operation is often not taken. No design standards. In fact, in government systems, we follow L1. In the case of this private STP, it is much below L1 because it doesn't matter, because the builder builds and then hand it over to the association, and then there is no incentive for them to take a high quality treatment infrastructure. Operation and maintenance is pretty weak, untrained operators. But the worst part is there is no reporting of performance, no third-party audit, and there's no monitoring system in place. In many geographies, I'm not speaking about Telangana or a few places, but I'm talking about a pan-India perspective. Now, there is also absence of market for treated water. Few startups have come forward to buy this water, but the market is not created. So because of that, there is a complete failure of this particular fabulous sector with 8,000 MLD capacity in the country, often underutilized. So today the conversation is, how do we strengthen the performance of these private STPs, which have proliferated in our country, but operating at a suboptimal level? And that's the conversation we're going to have. And we're going to carry out a number of studies as a follow-up to this particular webinar. Now, some of the questions that we should collectively answer is, who should collect the data? How do we strengthen the regulatory mechanisms? Which agency should be accountable for this? Is it the environment agency or the city governments? Who should monitor it? How do we set design standards so that all useless stuff in the form of STP do not get implemented? How do we notify recycling standards? Unfortunately, India doesn't have recycling standards, even though we are talking about dual piping system. How about performance monitoring and third-party audit? And how do we create a good market for used water treatment so that the treated water could be monetized, and that creates an incentive for the builders to perform it well? And how do we incentivize building associations to comply with the standards and recycle the used water? So these are very generic questions which we may have to address to strengthen this ecosystem of decentralized used water management. As I said, it is equivalent to 20,000 crore investment on the ground. It's 20,000 crore investment, often underutilized, and it is a collective effort is required to revive this investment and revive these assets and protect the water bodies downstream. This fits squarely under Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0, and that's the reason we have invited Dr. Chaurasia, who is leading this mission from the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Now I request Dr. Chaurasia to share his views and also set the context from Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0 perspective, wherein he's passionately driving used water management performance improvement in the country. Over to you, Dr. Chaps.
Thank you, Professor Chari. Thank you very much. I will like to share my screen, just 1 second. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So, yeah, at the outset, I would greet all audiences and thank Professor Chari and ASCII for providing me opportunity to interact with you. I also greet Dana Kishore sir, MD Hyderabad Water Supply and Sewerage Board, and also Neetu ma'am, Telangana State Pollution Control Board, Dr. Ramakrishnan Rao, President CREDAI, and also K. Bhaskarji, MD, Rival Engineers. This topic is in fact so much important at this juncture that you may be aware Swachh Bharat Mission was launched on 1st October 2021, and from that point of view itself, we were facing this challenge that used water management in all towns, how to take up, and because so many problems are there, I will be counting one by one, but while implementing this Swachh Bharat Mission 1, we increasingly realize that major portion is used water management, and that has to be dealt not only for larger towns, but even smaller towns. And as Professor Chari very clearly explained that many states proactively, they are going to, let us say, decentralized level and trying to reduce this not only burden of treatment, but locally managing and handling this wastewater, and also for beneficial purposes. Keeping all these aspects, the implementation of used water management becomes very challenging. And you might have heard at many point of time that Honorable Prime Minister very clearly set a target for us that no used water disposal in water body our environment without any treatment. That is the first thing that we are trying to achieve that. And apart from that, the protocols that we are implementing, that not only treating used water, but also how to achieve level of sustainability. Often you might have seen a lot of projects has been implemented in the past, but for one or another reason, they were not fully functional. And this is the case across all the states in the country. Similarly, this used water and septic management also, at least in all towns, this minimum thing has to be done, sustainability in 50% towns. And this important task we are tasked to do in over 4,200 towns. They are all towns less than 1 lakh population. And under used water management, if you see, more than 2/3 of outlay is given for it, which is around 90,000 crore if you see in financial terms. And around 1,300 MLD capacity we are supposed to create under this mission. So naturally, the learning from these things is going to be very helpful, not only for us implementing the mission, but each one of you which are a prominent stakeholder.
Excuse me, sir, sorry to interrupt. I think the slides are not moving.
Okay, slides are not moving. Now
Yes,
second
sir.
slide
Sir,
is coming.
Sir, can you make it full screen, sir? Can I?
Yes, I have made full screen. Is it visible, this second slide?
No.
No, I think you need to exit and then share it again.
Reshare it. Yes, sir.
Reshare.
You
Okay,
stop
okay.
sharing and share it again, sir.
Okay. Yes. Just 1 second. Please confirm now it is visible.
It is visible, sir. You can make it full screen.
Yes. Now it is moving. Please confirm it is moving.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Madam, you
we will, yes, sir,
please
we will
share
share,
from your
sir.
side. Yes.
Yes, sir, we
Yes.
will share. Avinash, please share the screen. Yes, sir, it's shared, sir.
Yeah. Go to
Thank
next
you.
slide, please. Next slide. Yes, next slide. So as I mentioned in Swachh Bharat Mission, one more focus was on solid waste management, but this huge water, which was a major, I will say, cause a problem for our water bodies, our drinking water sources, even groundwater. These all things were going contaminated because of this. Even 75% freshwater sources, as you know, it has been, it is reported to be contaminated because of that. And Honorable NGT and before that Honorable Supreme Court has been pursuing this matter so that this situation is improved. Next, please. Yeah, these are some of the photographs that what is the scenario in the towns. So these things only prompted that used water has to be holistically treated. Next, please. Yeah, and apart from used water, even fecal sludge also, because our 60% of the population is dependent on that. So this used water, this fecal sludge properly desludging wherever needed and to be brought to designated place and treated was also a challenge. So that also we are handling. Next, please. Yeah, so if you see used water management broadly, it can be categorized in two ways it can be done. That is one off-site sanitation system where it is network-based system, whether centralized or decentralized, and another is on-site sanitation system where basically locally it may be septic tank or maybe some individual unit installed in the houses, for example, just like Jokaso and similar sort of things. So these two sort of things are there, and in both the treatment processes, sludge is generated that also need to be done, and sludge not only generated in the process, but routinely also if we do O&M there also this sludge and other things are used to come. Next, please. So this is just, I wanted to set a context that it is similar to that off-site sanitation system. It may be centralized or decentralized. Next. Yeah, this should be on-site sanitation system, but often it ends up that only a septic tank is there. Often soak pit is absent, and even soak pit is there that is not properly maintained, and whatever the used water is there, effluent from septic tank that comes to the let us say drain or maybe in the open it is lying. So that is a cause of pollution and environmental degradation. Go to next one, please. Yeah, so apart from that, this fecal sludge also through FSSM system, it is conveyed and treated. So I will explain many cases may this is being done as a standalone, let us say, treatment facility also, but there is ample opportunity and feasibility that it can be treated as a co-treatment where it will not only save cost, resources and effort, but it can be treated in the same facility at no cost, and that Stps cost we are supporting under Swachh Bharat Mission. So these efforts will be able to address not only used water problem, but the sludge problem also, which required occasional desludging based on need in septic tanks. Next, please. Yeah, so I was mentioning the main problem that is actual scenario apart from the towns which are not having sewerage system. This is the scenario, and if you see two things very important, the source of pollution comes from the toilet, where often people call it black water, where let us say 30 to 40% or sometimes 50% BOD load is there, and this wash basin, bath and kitchen, they also carries 50 to 60% BOD load. These all the things anyway it goes in the drain where sewer network is not there, and over and above this effluent from septic tank that also goes. So if you say around 80 to 85% pollution is already going apart from what is being treated in septic tank, and sludge is one thing that sometimes taking out and done, that it is important for its functioning, but its contribution in overall that pollution generated is very minuscule. So this prompts us that used water should not be left without proper collecting, treatment, and even, of course, beneficial recycling and reuse. Next, please. So the approach that we are following under Swachh Bharat Mission is, we understand that some states and ideally if we see individual households should be connected with sewer network. After that, it should come to some centralized or decentralized treatment plant, and after that it can be used either for flushing and gardening, or maybe for industry, or maybe for agriculture. That is the ideal thing. Ideal, and not only ideal, but I will say most of the developed country are following. So this is the most desired option. But to reach that, it requires a lot of capacity, resources, and time. And sometimes doing in one go become a challenge. Seeing the capacity of our ULB, also their ability to sustain and operate and maintain. So keeping all these things, for towns less than 1 lakh population, we are suggesting that let us go in incremental manner. Wherever fund is not available, even this huge water can be done only through intersection diversion. The drain you saw earlier where it is flowing, they can be intercepted and treated in some of the robust technology that is available, where less skill is required, less O&M is required. And of course, towns and cities which are having population, let us say more than 30,000 or 50,000, their sewer network also we are recommending that at least to begin with, let us plan on whole city basis and start implementing from any of the core area or selected ward that is suitable for the ULB. Accordingly, the advantage of this will be that once this sort of planning is put in one go, after that, that can be implemented based on availability of funds in parts. So this system will help to have a robust system in coming years. And of course, always we are hearing many times that Honorable Prime Minister mentions that by India at 2047, we are going to be a developed nation. We are going to give our next generation a developed country. In developed country, this used water and of course solid waste, they cannot be left like that. And going one step ahead, not only treatment, but its circularity is also important, where government of India is working. So those things also need to be embedded in the planning, so that these things not only minimize the resource requirement at ULB level, but more and more it becomes sustainable and with a little bit financial support from the ULB and government. So this is the approach we are suggesting. Next, please. Yeah, if we see in this approach, at one time immediate financial requirement become almost half. In conventional system, where many states like Gujarat, even now Maharashtra is also planning, Haryana, Punjab, they are going on covering individual household and each and every household in the ULB. So if we see that conventional thing, it will be costing something like per capita, let us say 8,000, 9,000, but if we go in incremental way, it will be 4,000 and something like that. So it become more affordable in different class of population. Next, please. And regarding that fecal sludge, as I mentioned, there are also options where STPs are available. They can be co-treated without having any other facility. That can be immediately done, whether through solid liquid separator, or even in next slide I will show, please go to next slide, where directly also it can be put through this, because the quantity of fecal sludge is only in KLD in 2,000, 3,000 liter, but the flow that is coming, often it is in MLD, million liters, more than 1,000 times. So whatever even concentration is 2, 3, 4 times more than the sewage, it will have minuscule impact and it will be able to take care, especially in smaller towns. So, this is one thing that we are suggesting, that see, in entire way of planning, if systems are not planned economically, later on operation, maintenance and other things become difficult and things will not be properly operated, and the objective for which it is created, it will be, let us say, bypassed if electricity bills are not paid, and the objective for which we have created, that will not be fulfilled. So one thing is very important in planning: depending on resources, depending on ULB capacity, and depending on local requirement, things should be planned in such a way. It may not be very, let us say, 100% as per norms, but it can be, let us say, 80-85% giving results, but sustainable, and people can afford and maintain that. This is the need of the hour. Next, please. Yeah, these are the some of the sludge drying bed examples. Like in many states, I will show standalone FSTP has been created that is casting much more, even something more is added. It can be able to treat sewage also. Those things, many examples are available. Even occasionally that comes an alert we are going to issue that this desludging earlier it used to be done on annual basis, periodic one scheduled desludging that was forcing a lot of pressure on ULB and also people, and compulsorily because of getting good marks in Swachh Sarvekshan and other they were doing that, we are relaxing and we are telling that you can go on need-based desludging, so that will further optimize cost. And these things, even there is no treatment plant, there is no other system, making some sort of sludge drying bed alone will be able to handle, because the sludge that is coming from septic tank is digested.
थोड़ा सा जल्दी कर लीजिए.
हाँ, जल्दी करते हैं बस. नेक्स्ट प्लीज. नेक्स्ट, ये एक दो हम कास्ट दिखाना चाह रहे थे जो बहुत ज्यादा है. 60 लाख 70 लाख पर KLD. दिस थिंग शुड बी माइंडलेस स्पेंडिंग ऑफ मनी शुड बी अवॉइडेड. 5 KLD के लिए 73 लाख दैट शुड बी अवॉइडेड. नेक्स्ट प्लीज. Yes, these regulatory requirement I am coming. This is the important thing where Honorable Supreme Court or NGT is also monitoring. So if things are not done properly, used water, then lot of this financial penalty and other things are coming which should be avoided, and that's why advance let us say planning should be made. Next please. Next. Yes, here it is important that whatever this, because pollution control boards cooperation become very important, the standards should be based on requirement. Like this UN Council mentions, no higher quality water should be used for a purpose that can tolerate a lower grade. So unless Urban Development Department and Pollution Control Board together join hands and work for this cause, then urban development will be in trouble and pollution control will be going by this. That will put a lot of pressure. This needs to be relooked. We are trying, but before it comes, both should do together and go ahead. Next, please. Next. Yeah, this is the last one. This way forward, that monitoring mechanism should be robust for whatever the plants are there. Professor Chari mentioned that more than 10,000 some plants are there. Hand holding for O&M also, not only from urban development, but pollution control boards also should show them way how they should maintain these small STPs, because alone they are a fault and their knowledge may not be sufficient. Then these are the levying of the penalty and other things. These are the some of the recommendations. This slide will be forwarded to you. Next please.
Thank you.
So these are the some of the regulations that will be required to be reviewed. I am not going, but these are the three things. I think 74 it is old, and other things also to rationalize current requirement. Yes, next please. Yeah, these are only coordinated efforts. Go to next. I think this is the last. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, I think you have beautifully outlined the vision under the Swachh Bharat mission for dealing with the used water management. And I think you have also indicated that about 1,300 MLD of used water treatment capacity or wastewater treatment capacity would be envisaged as part of the SBM 2.0. Can you hear me, or is there any problem with the voice?
No, fine. It is fine.
It is audible, sir. It's clear.
Yeah. So I think the point I would like to amplify and probably request Dhanakishore sir to come in. While the national government is looking at used water management from a city government's perspective, I think a large volume or large capacity is built parallelly, maybe much more than 1,300 MLD capacity, without our actually oversight, without our regulations, without our investment. The best part is it's not the public sector investment, it's a private sector investment. Now, how do we amplify that? How do we control it? Can all of you mute yourself, please, those who are not speaking? Thank you. So how do we sort of take advantage of the private sector investment and strengthen the hands of the public sector investments coming under Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0? And as I repeat again, under SBM, we are thinking of 1,300 MLD. The private sector parallelly in the next 5 years probably is going to build more than 2,000 or 2,500 MLD capacity. And that's, I think, is a beauty of the current system that we have. Unfortunately, not regulated. I would now request Danakishore sir to share his views, because he has handled both from all angles, from the water utility angle as well as the city government angle. And I would request him to share his views, particularly his views on how do we strengthen the current system, which is often not really in place right now. There's no system in place. Over to you.
Thank you, Professor Chari. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you all fellow panelists.
Chaurasya
and could you mute all of you, please, who are not speaking? Am I visible, Mr. Chari?
Yes, sir. You are visible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and other participants. Neetu, I think she's there, and very good introductory remarks and captured by Mr. Chari, Professor Chari, and also thank Chaurasya ji for giving what's happening at government level. You see, the topic given to me is that perspectives from a utility organization. Water board is Hyderabad Metro Water Board and Sewerage Board is the utility organization for Hyderabad, and we take care of really about 12.5 lakh connections and maybe 1.2 crore population. But I'd like to set a few things in motion. You see, who are the users of these on-site systems? This is the first thing we should ask a question. Who are these users? What is their perspective of it? What are a lack of perspective from them? All these users, top tier population. I'm sure you all agree with me. Mr. Chari, am I audible? I mean, I think it's seen on here. So.
Yes, sir. You are very much audible, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So, who are these guys? Who are these people? These are all gated communities, or huge flats, apartment complexes, and people who are, we can say that they're reasonably well-to-do and all that. Point is, if they're well-to-do, highly educated, and if they're capable of setting up 1 crore or 70 lakhs or 2 crores worth of equipment for an STP, which we should not call STP. I mean, we should call it as a water reclamation plant or something like that. STP is a misnomer because we're giving a reused water we are giving. And I think we need to change that. What I'm saying is these are all informed clientele who certainly have a social media account, and they're all on Twitter and whatnot, and Instagrams. And how come, they say that we cannot maintain this system? Is it because of a lack of regulation? Or is it because they don't know what's happening? Or they don't have technology perspectives because builders make them and give it to them. They don't know how to maintain them. Are there no standards for maintenance of them? What are standards of water, used water, or standards of biosolids or sludge or something like that? I think it's a combination of all of them. When a climate change is the byword in now, and Honorable Prime Minister G20 organization, and recently COP27 has happened in Egypt. So when climate change is the byword, and all the educated clientele of these people who are having these users, if they say that when they're not able to maintain, it could be because of lack of knowledge, or it could be apathy, or sometimes they ask, we are not able to maintain it because we're not able to pay maintenance for that. Are they not able to pay that maintenance? These are some important questions we need to ask. These are not bottom of the pyramid, slum dwellers. No, not at all. These are the people, who bought maybe 2 crores, 3 crores, or 5 crores kind of, villas or apartments. They know what is happening, and they do know about climate change, at least 15 to 20% of them. But I think what required is, what is happening on the ground needs to be studied. We attempted that kind of a thing recently. And in fact, ASCII has also been a sometime partner in that. We utilized an organization called National Institute of Urban Management in Hyderabad, which is a municipal administration setup. And they studied these STPs. Let us see what does this say. This study revealed we have about anywhere between 800 to 900 numbers of smaller on-site plantation plants. When we studied only 300, we could study. 67% of them are functional. The rest of them are not functioning or suboptimally functional because they are dysfunctional also. And then we noticed that the community hardly knows about, except for the office bearers or who are organizing body of that organization of that community or gated community or apartment complex. They also complain about commercial power tariff. Power tariff is very high. And then they don't know what to do with this reused water and treated water, what is to be done. Sludge is produced, what is to be done with the sludge. These are some of the questions. So then we need to ask now that why it's not being, there is institutional framework is absent. Coming from my perspective, from our organization perspective of Metro Water Board, I think, Metro Water Boards, all water utilities for that matter in the country, they're highly burdened with the daily water maintenance, downtimes, how to maintain them, customer grievances, revenue collection and all that. So we need to essentially ask a question, is it necessary for the informed clientele, highly educated people, they need to be centrally controlled? Is it necessary? A central control authority is required. We have organizational, law framework is there. As Mr. Chari told initially, there is a, acts are there, and CPHCB guidelines are there, pollution control board guidelines are there. What to do with this? Now, how many units have to produce what kind of thing? All, dual pumping systems, all are there. If these are things, I think the clientele, that is users, have to be equipped with adequate technology and institutional framework so that they can start operating. Let us look at one small on-site plant, maybe 50 KL, 100 KLD kind of a thing, or 500 KLD also. It produces grey water. How much grey water is produced? What are the parameters, BOD, COD, what is the TDS, what is the pH? These have to be measured. And then what happens to this water has to be measured. I'm sure gardening is there, plumbing, other kind of washes, and they use it. So what to do with the rest of the water, available water? So coming to monitoring, I suggest, my perspective on this is that there is an Industry 4.0 atmosphere now. So governance 4.0 also has to come. Industry 4.0, you have an internet, IoT instrumentation, okay, Internet of Things, and then you have a flow meter. You have a neat dashboard for that. Collect all that dashboard, collect all the information of all 800 or 25,000 in the country. You can send the data on web, you can send the data, on internet you can send the data, collect the data and see what's monitoring. How much pH is maintained, how much water they need to produce per day, and how much water is going out, and how much has been treated, how much of power has been consumed. All this can be calculated in IoT systems and Industry 4.0 platforms. There are embedded technologies are available. These embedded technologies can be given into this, and these guidelines can be given either the city governments or pollution control boards or central pollution control board. They can give these guidelines, and they must be made part of that, on-site systems, so that automatic monitoring will happen. Otherwise, keeping personnel on that when human resources wasted, and it becomes very expensive. This is my first take on what has to happen on technology front end and what has happened on accountability and all that. And then second is bring awareness to all these people, users. They are highly educated. I am living in a gated community. We have an STP, so that I should know about this. Give them a small PowerPoint presentation, what's happening. You see, what has to be realized is, if you let out the water and it has to go into a pipe system, each pipe, whether it's a steel pipe or whatever pipe you are doing, you have to dig, ground, and you have to lay, concretizing. These are all carbon rich. Concrete is highly carbon rich. When iron kind of pipes are produced, they are carbon rich. When we are talking about net zero, and Honorable Prime Minister says that by 2070, country has to be net zero economy in terms of carbon. We cannot keep on carbon rich kind of expenditure. So we need to look at on-site systems even for individual houses also. Like, right now in Metro Water Board of Hyderabad, we are spending somewhere around 4,000 crores to make it entire city sewage free, all sewage is treated. But what about vertical growth happening, future growth is happening? Mr. Chaurasia talked about, core city, peri-urban areas. Core city vertical growth is happening. Wherever vertical growth is happening, is it possible for even individual house also, like it happens in Japan and some other countries, household modules to be done, so that at home itself, it has to be reduced. Water imprint or carbon imprint has to be reduced. These things are to be thought about. I think this is a challenge we have in India. Now, from water utility perspective, how do we monitor them? As I said, I think right now what we are trying to do, we have a environmental control cell one has been monitored, and then we are replacing NGOs and so few NGOs and NAVM to go and study these things. Even to study those parameters, it requires money. We calculate it, suppose we do all kinds of parameters, flow meters and all that. We give them an app. We have prepared an app to give to them. And we're doing a survey now. To do that also, it needs money, and they have to pay that money. And where from they will pay money? Hyderabad and also in Delhi, where we give a free water, even there people feel that, maintenance costs are high, and they're not able to maintain that, on-site system. So these have to be thought about. Sure. And second thing that has come into question is that, what happens to the used water? Now, there is no country where 100% of used water has been completely used. It's impossible because we have, taboo attached to the used water. Countries like, Singapore, 36%, 40% of their water is microfiltered and become the mixed water with the regular water, and people are consuming it. And no other country can do this. I mean, Israel may be doing a little, I doubt it. Certainly not in India, where people have such a taboo on everything. So what to do with this water? Some other sessions can be, yes, utilized for gardening, your grey water, dual pumping system. In fact, can we go to another, to a little bit further? And we say that this water has to be tertiary water, and microfilter this water, make it as good as a drinkable water, and try to, aquifer recharge, groundwater aquifer recharge is another thing we have to think about it. All over our country, particularly in urban areas, groundwater tables are so low, and we have consumed waters of last 3,000 years. Saved water in ground has been, taken out in borewells and all that. I think we need to think about seriously that this water has to be recharged to the ground. Wherever your flats are there, wherever your gated communities are there, recharge that water. I mean, these are costly implications. There is no doubt about it. But if we look into future, climate change is coming. Water is going to be a serious problem for our country. We need to recharge our water bank, that is groundwater aquifers. This has to be done, and this is being done in a few countries.
So let me, sir, intervene at this stage.
Yeah.
Just one or two points, just to have a conversation with you. Now, the big question is, even in an advanced country like Japan, where they have had a similar problem of on-site decentralized system. Japan is also, as you know, has a Jokaso Act. They regulate on-site systems. Even there, without a robust regulation in place, micro-level regulation, third-party auditing of these assets, they couldn't improve the system. Now, even though it's a rich economy, rich communities, they without a regulatory oversight, often these things fail. Now, given that understanding and situation, do you think who is the right person in metropolitan cities in particular to monitor these assets? Because the building approval is given by the city corporations, and they let go. And once the building approval is given, the assets are created, but there's nobody to monitor. Now, the PCB is monitoring only certain level of assets. Even that is also not monitored. Now, given this situation of institutional lack of oversight on monitoring and performance assessment, there is a natural tendency that they fall flat. So what is your advice? Who should be the right agency to keep an eye on this, monitor the data, monitor the performance, or shall we create a new sub-entity within the water utility to manage this?
Yeah, thank you. It's a very, very important thing, Chariji. See, I'm not saying that there should not be an oversight system. Let it be there. Because if there is no oversight system, everybody will be their own king and they'll not do. It's like a king's cloths kind of thing it will become. What is important is a sufficient intervention of technology, layering of technology is required. Too strict monitoring is very good. Make it highly penalized. It's kind of a taboo it should become. Penalize it very heavily, but have a technology, but there must be an overseer should be there. Oversight, utility should be there. It has to be city governance, there is no doubt about it, because pollution control board with their minimal kind of, they have their own usages. I mean, industrial pollution and several things are there for them. So I don't expect them to go and monitor every small gated communities, but city governance is a minute in there. They have a footprint of their employees everywhere. So either it has to be water utilities like metro water boards in the major cities, or it has to be corporations or municipalities. These two guys have to come together and establish a system. And maybe to assist them, you can have a third party can be there. Accredited third parties have to be done. Some NGOs to create awareness. But I tell you, over a period of time, this will become many more actually, because stringent kind of stipulations will come in because of climate change. You can't afford to lose any chemicals into the environment, and circular economy is becoming a byword now. So you should have embedded technologies to capture every minute operations of all the systems, and they should be data driven. Data should be collected and portrayed, and we should know everyday basis kind of a thing. Machine learning should be there, or AI should be provided. It should be kept, out of these 10,000 kind of units in the country or in a city, these 200 are not functioning today. Immediately increase the tariff, water tariff, triple it on those days. Because you see, our tariff is so highly subsidized water tariff for domestic users. And then they're not able to pay power tariff, means it's a poor kind of response from them.
Sure.
So they need to be educated. So we need to have a centralized authority, but centralized authority cannot keep on going every day into their houses. That's very impossible for anybody, any organization. So we should have embedded technology to capture data on a day-to-day basis, penalize them heavily when this happens. I think this kind of, and it has to be done by city governance with some kind of aid from any kind of third-party organization or any urban institutions kind of a thing like yours.
Thank you. So, Mr. Dhanakrishn's advice is that the city government has to lead it, this activity upfront. Technology should be, maybe online technology could be part of the building approval system. When they install the system, I think it should be embedded in the system so that the data flow reporting becomes much easier. Now, I request Neetuji, who is from the regulatory, perspective.
Mr. Chari,
yes,
please excuse me to leave because I have another small
yes,
obligation.
Yes.
Thank you, please. Thank you very much for this timely innovation and timely intervention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Neetuji, we had a conversation also, and you are well aware of what's happening in this space. And the Pollution Control Board is actually regulating properties about 20,000, but often they do not come to the PCB for consent to operate. They take only permission, but when it comes to operation, they don't often come. So what should be done to strengthen this whole gamut of challenge that in front of us, where a very beautiful asset of large capacity is created, but often underutilized because we don't have a good regulatory system, performance reporting system? Over to you, Neetuji.
Good evening to all the participants, and thank you, Charikaru, for giving me this opportunity. My topic is basically on regulatory framework for private STPs. So under Water Prevention and Pollution Control Act 1974, PCB has the pass to basically give the design, the layout, and standards of effluent, and then inspect also STPs, be it in private or be it in industry or government setup. However, only those buildings which are having more than 20,000 square meter of built-up area and which require environmental clearance permission, there they need also CFO and CFE from Pollution Control Board. So only those buildings we regulate, not built-up area less than 20,000 square meter. As per our data, almost 600 such buildings are either in pipeline or they have taken permission or they are like in the process. So in these 600, 150 are already existing in Hyderabad. I'm only talking about big building apartments where EC is required. 300 to 400 construction are actually at various stages. So we assume, or we are like giving notices also that is come for you have taken EC, and before taking any occupational certificate, you need CFE. And then others are again like in a very initial phase at monitoring. So this is the status about those buildings which need EC and which need a CFO, CFE for STPs. Coming to regulatory framework for STPs, when we give CFE and CFO, those buildings where the built-up area is more than 20,000 square meter, we actually ask for two requirements. One is STPs to be constructed, and second, the entire water has to be recycled and reused for themselves. They have to show a mechanism whether it is used for their own or they are having some agreement with some industry or some setup where this wastewater is going to be treated water is going to be utilized. That is one part. Second, we also ask for organic harvester. So these are two requirements, very less, but we insist that. And I would like to inform you that unless these requirements
Priyanka?
Hello.
Did we lose?
Yes, I think we lost her. I'll just check.
Okay, so until Neetuji comes back, so Chaurasia Saab, I would like to pull you in just for a minute or two. Yeah, Neetuji is back. Over to you.
Yeah. I think we lost connection in between. So basically, what I was saying that unless those requirements are met, we are not giving any permission. So no problem regarding the construction of STP. STPs are in place. When STPs are in place, you are talking about monitoring through some framework. It can be city government, it can be a water body, it can be a pollution control board. I would actually support Dana sir's just now that he has given some suggestions that if a body which is eligible or which has the capacity to monitor, it can be only city government, because number of apartments are going in a very, very exponential way. If you see that luxury apartment in Hyderabad, that is a new way of life now. So as the lifestyle and purchasing power will increase, more such number of apartments will come in metro city like Hyderabad. So we need a body which has the capacity and the wherewithal and the money to actually monitor. PCP per se, we are monitoring all the STPs which are constructed by Hyderabad Metro Water. Larger STP, he very rightly said that those residential apartment cannot be termed as STP. They are basically water treatment instrument, not basically STP. So big STPs, we take the regular monitoring. We also monitor almost 180 lakes of Hyderabad, the water quality and all those things. For private residential apartment, first we don't have the manpower. Very, very few. We work with only 241 regular A's and D's, and we have to take control of industry. That is our core area. And all the industries are also in expansive more and more number of industries are coming. So I think it's very difficult for us to take up this monitoring business in our ambit. We are right now with great difficulty able to monitor these STPs of Metro Water. That is one part. Second, no civic body will be having the manpower to go daily in these apartment, even weekly, even monthly, and monitor. It's highly improbable and impossible also, because you have to, all these residential apartment association, all these maintenance committee, they have to have the technical knowledge, they have to have the know-how to run their own system. The system should run on auto pilot mode. That is happening in developing and even developed countries. So nobody is there to license permitters to monitor you, to give you directions at every step, to come and check your system. The technology is the only way. So online monitoring system is the way to do it. Online monitoring system also, our lab capacity, PCB, is not sufficient enough. It's only good for industry. Right now also, we are having only 17 categories of hazardous waste. Even water body also online monitoring is done only for 20 STPs, although they are running 31 STPs. So we are connected only with 20. The another 11 is in the pipeline. So you see at which level we are working. So right now, I think it's not practical for PCB to monitor either online or through manpower. But the future has to be set up, and I think it's in city government level where online monitoring can be done. And from technical side, we are here to give you give city government all the know-how, how to basically we can train the staff, we can train the RWA members, because they are the local, they are the soldiers on the ground. Only two criteria are important for residential area. One is BOD, and second is your fecal and E. coli system, which is basically it has to be done in situ. Even online, it cannot be done. So there also technical know-how and technical capacities can be done. We can take up third-party audit in different intervals. But on regular basis, the way forward is creating a lot of awareness in the RWA, in the maintenance society, and then monitoring by online monitoring by city government, and then further technical knowledge is to be given by PCB.
Thank you. Thank you, Nituji. I think you have summarized it so beautifully. So what you're saying is that given the currently the Pollution Control Board, many of the PCBs, not only Telangana, but most of the PCBs in the country, they're regulating at a particular threshold of 20,000 square meter built up area. In some PCBs, it could be less or more. Now, you believe that the ones below 20,000 square meter has to be managed and regulated by the city governments concerned. It could be Hyderabad in this case, or Warangal, or any of those places. And the capacity building, the technical capacity building can be taken up by the Pollution Control Board to the city governments and other stakeholders. And awareness creation among the resident welfare associations and the building association seems to be the way forward. Now, this is a big challenge. The big challenge is that the PCB is, most of the PCBs do not have staff to monitor. At the same time, city governments do not consider this as a priority at this stage. The priority is to establish the system, but they are not really empowered to monitor. Now, that's the dilemma that we are in. Now, Chori says, before I ask the private sector to come, because I think for them it's, it's a music to your, to them that we don't have any system in place.
Yes.
So what is that, this is very much under your mandate under used water management. You are painstakingly working at the national level to create 1300 MLD capacity, but we already have close to 10,000 MLD capacity underutilized. Now, what is the role of the ministry in this case? What is the role of CPHO? Shall we ignore it, continue to ignore it, or shall we integrate some of these aspects in the forthcoming Swachh Sarvekshan so that at least the city government start taking ownership to this sector and start monitoring and regulating them? And the PCB is available to them to provide technical assistance and even the laboratory support probably in some cases. So let me draw you into this.
Thank you. Very, very pertinent point you have raised, Professor Chari. One thing I would like to slightly correct. It is not 1300 MLD, but 13,000 MLD, because less than 1 lakh population, that is the magnitude. But okay, what ma'am very clearly and very, let us say, explicitly without any hesitation told that what are the constraints that sector is facing. So correct, we are also aware of these things, but in this case, one solution what I think can be there, of course, staffing may not be the solution. Maybe some of the agency, State Pollution Control Board or Urban Development Department can engage, and they can audit and report apart from what all awareness creation, everything is going on. So that may be one way, because in smaller STPs or facilities, online monitoring often may cost double. So wherever it is required and they have more potential, their online systems are fine. Here, apart from these things, I think that auditing system, training that agencies and holding them, and they in turn do that and go there, and even they can operate, let us say, in a city, in a zone, there may be 200, 300 sub-facilities. Individual RWA cannot be may not be able to develop so much to do of their own, but they can always chip in some money, and this type of agency, they can be given a particular district, particular area, and they can manage that. So this may be one way where we can have control and we can be continuously monitoring, because the problem is very pertinent. We are spending a lot of money, but when it comes for operation and giving service delivery, citizen satisfaction, there it is failing badly. That cannot be allowed anymore. And we are very much conscious and working on it, sir. Let us see how it comes out.
Thank you. So I now request Mr. Ramakrishna Rao Garu, who is from CREDAI, who actually is championing the cost within the CREDAI community. In fact, He's taking it as a personal agenda and trying to educate all the builders to sort of promote and maintain this good operational maintenance practices of the system. But I think his perspective is that unless the ecosystem gets developed, it may not be easily possible to communicate and convince all the builders and all the building associations. So Ramakrishna Garu, if you are there, would you like to share your views? How do we strengthen the current performance of this private STPs available in households, in gated communities, in apartment blocks, in large number, but often not performing well to the desired level? And this is not something new. In fact, that I think the studies carried out in Bangalore by EVAG and CDD Boda has pointed out similar results in the context of Bangalore. So what do we do? How do we strengthen this situation so that our water bodies and public health gets improved? Over to you.
Yeah. Good evening, you all. I really appreciate ASCI and Dr. Chari to have taken this initiative to have this webinar on a very, very pertinent and important subject. And good evening to Neetu Prasad ma'am and Chaurasia ji and other panelists. To start with, sir, Mr. Jari was mentioning bit maybe jocularly that we don't require, or we are happy that there is no regulator. No, we need a regulator. We need a regulator who handholds us, who guides us. But we need a regulator before there is an enabling mechanism, enabling environment, and more so an enabling infrastructure to discharge my duties. That is a fundamental question, sir. We, like any other citizen, like all of you, we are also aware of the situation, the shortage of the water, the disposal of these sewage systems. We are equally sensitive. And as I am at the receiving end of this whole conversation, especially I means majority of it. So we need to analyze why this is happening, why there are thousands and thousands of treatment plants lying waste, unutilized, unused. A. B. Even if some of the these machines are working, why we are not able to dispose the excess water, the treated water? So, and thirdly, take the city of Hyderabad. We have a phenomenal growth in the last 7-8 years, unprecedented growth, and commensurately there was no infrastructure to deal with this discharge. I'm by regulation, I'm bound to install a machine which treats the water, which also reuses the water, helps me to reuse the water, but to what extent? Beyond a point, I don't use that water. It needs to be discharged. Where do I discharge? There are no sewer lines. There is no centralized system where I can pump my water to. So these are the pertinent and fundamental questions we need to answer, sir. Yes, we need a regulator, but before we have a regulator on board, we need to have this. We don't say, bird first or nest first, but they have to go simultaneously. They have to go in tandem. All these machines which are installed are going to face huge issue now. I'm talking in perspective of the city of Hyderabad as an example.
Sure.
And many cities face this. They need to have a parallel sewage system. I can drill bore wells and pump the water underground to recharge the water table, but there is a limitation for that. Beyond that, we need to create, the government or the agencies need to create huge infrastructure to carry this excess water, a centralized pool, a treated water. Then it needs to be reuse it to maybe industries, and you can give it to back my own industry. I consume a lot of water for construction. I drill borewells, and as Dana Kishore sir rightly said, we have exploited 3,000 years old aquifers. So we are extracting water from left, right, and center through the earth. So if that needs to be contained, that needs to be at least minimized. So we need to have this mechanism in place at the earliest. However, best regulation we have, unless we have this system, it is very, very difficult to go further.
Mr. Rao, just want to step in. Your point is absolutely right. We need a good regulation, but also coupled with infrastructure for carrying the excess water post-treatment, so
Yes.
that with otherwise, if there is no drainage system or if there is no sewer system in the locality, then it will create unnecessary problem. But the point here is, while the infrastructure needs to be developed, the question I'm asking to you is, how do you incentivize, how do you create a sense of responsibility among the building management associations to treat the water with or without downstream infrastructure? Even now, without downstream infrastructure, they are discharging it untreated. But the question is, can we incentivize them? Can we motivate them? Can we regulate them to treat the water and then let it outside the premises of the apartment? What should be done? Your point is right. Infrastructure is important,
Yes.
downstream, but it's equally important that they need to treat it, which they are not doing it. Most of us know.
Yeah, I agree with you. There has to be a carrot and stick approach here. We need to sensitize. We need to have a kind of a mechanism or a kind of council specially constituted within this urban management agencies like THMC or PCB or whatever sorts, and the RW's members need to be roped in as members there. So they need to be educated, they need to be sensitized, they need to be handhold, and also parallelly we need to have trained personnel, sir. Though we install these machineries, expensive machineries, one of the challenges we face is the lack of trained personnel. And these systems are not great systems. They are all second generation or whatever. So they require constant human monitoring, and which is expensive, which is not available, and we need to have the latest technology. It may cost more, but it's okay. You can't rely on those obsolete technologies and get off results or undesired results which are not up to our expectations. So these issues also need to be addressed. Yes, I fully agree with you. Historically or as a society, we, irrespective of our income levels, we have not matured to those levels of self-regulation. We have to be very candid about this. Whether he lives in a 3 crores dwelling or 4 crores dwelling or 2 crores dwelling, the awareness is not at desired levels. So they need to be educated. There has to be some retribution also in case they don't fall in line. So these are the measures one need to take.
So I think self-regulation has certain limitations, and you believe that a combination of self-regulation and good regulatory intervention is important to improve the performance of the system right now. Now, I would now invite Mr. Bhaskar. Mr. Bhaskar, you are the service provider to most of these builders and the associations offering STP services, operation and maintenance services, new assets. Now, can you give your perspective? Because you've been seeing the concerns the building associations pose. They always say the power bill is high, the chemical bill is high, your operation and maintenance costs are high. So how do you deal with it? What should be done to improve the system performance. And I think you also have collaboration with some of the Japanese companies. They have similar system, but somehow they have improved the performance through effective regulation. Would you like to throw some light on your ideas and your suggestions? Mr. Bhaskar, over to you. I can't hear you.
Sir, please unmute yourself.
Bhaskar, you need to unmute. Mr. Bhaskar comes from private sector. He provides operation and maintenance support to a number of building communities, operating and maintaining the STPs and used water treatment systems and many other services. Over to you, Mr. Bhaskar.
Sir,
you are not audible to us.
audible?
Not really.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, your voice is cracking, but we can make an attempt. So before Mr. Bhaskar steps in, I think his network is weak. Mr. Kalyan Srinivas has raised his hand. Would you like to quickly ask a question, Mr. Kalyan?
Yeah. Good evening, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. I am CGM from Mega Engineering. We are dealing with various sewage treatment plants at a large scale under HMWSSB, and we have done number of treatment plants and O&M also we are doing. Regarding this community level, I live in Bloomfield, XSC, and where we have our internal treatment plant system, which is by sewage, it will come almost 6 to 7 meters below the ground, and there are a lot of pumping costs. And even after that, HMWSSB is charging 35% sewage cess on that, though it is completely treated inherently, means within our community by spending a lot of chemicals and power and other things, and we are reusing the same for gardening and treated surplus water at times because there is no stormwater drainage system in and around Tellapur or any other suburbs. So we are forced to send it out, let it out. And apart from that, for HMWSSB, if we want to get any exemption for the storage cess, about 20% or so, EPTRE is charging very huge cost for assessing the treated water. Means it should be allowed for other this one, and along with us, because HMWSSB has a water lineman who keeps the line reading or anything monthly. First they will come, and now AMR systems are also available.
So what you're saying is the service delivery agency, in this case Hyderabad Water Board, is charging the sewage cess after you treat the wastewater.
Means we are treating, but there may be that is the reason why it is to be separated, and the testing charges by EPTRA or any other government.
So the testing costs are high, as well as the sewerage tariff is also high, and that is one of the concerns you have. Okay.
Concerns that can be addressed. That can be addressed.
That should be addressed.
Yes. That's the last point. The concession what we'll get after getting EPTRI is less, means the EPTRI charges are more than the concession what we get if we submit the EPTRI report also.
Okay, so I got your point. So, Mr. Bhaskar, can you
Yes,
join?
sir.
Yeah.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible. Go ahead.
Good evening, Dr. Professor Chari Garu and respected panelists. Couple of points I've been just hearing last couple of minutes. Like I'm the one, like, for the just introduction of the others. I have already executed more than 500 STPs in Hyderabad, and all are private segments. And right now I'm executing more than 50-60 STPs other than the government segment projects. And also we have more than 100 sites of 24/7 O&Ms also with me. With this experience, with this little bit of knowledge, what we have on observations we have, I have few points to point out just to bring to your notice. Point number one is that, today, Mr. R.K. Rao also is telling the existing technologies and the new technologies possibilities. Sir, to bring to notice, as of now, majority of the people are going with the technologies of MBBR technology and SBR technology. And the latest can be of MBR technology with the membrane bioreactor, where all the parameters of the central pollution department will come automatically. Point number one, but that is little expensive. But if really people look into 2 years of O&M cost, it will become life cycle cost will become more or less equivalent or cheaper. Point number one. But only the concern here is that 100% of the water to be treated without any other choices. Hope the point you understood.
Yeah.
Number two, the treated water reusability policies, there are some policy issues also in place, where, as Mr. Rao Garu said, in Hyderabad, there is many of the sites, there is no possibility of leaving the treated water, number one. Number two, as per National Building Code.
Can you mute? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, as per National Building Code, only maximum 40 to 45% of the water can be reused by any of the residential projects. The rest of the 55% to 60% of the water, they don't know what to do. And in the other hand, if you really look into any commercial buildings, as per National Building Code, 70% of the water will be flushing water, or treated water for flushing and gardening applications. Only 30% of the water is required for domestic applications. The reality we observe here is that because they want to use this water even for their air conditioning application, HVAC application also, they are struggling for lack of availability of the water, wherein the residential projects people are having problems of how to discharge this treated water. If you really able to link it up, any kind of the possibility, of course, government has to intervene here. Thereby, a lot of saving of the water will be done. Point number one. Number two, thanks to Telangana government, Hyderabad being a water positive city, people are not feeling the pinch of non-availability of water. That's one of the challenge where people are not serious on treatment of water and reuse the water, because availability of water is plenty of available, but almost negligible cost. Now, the way we talk is that if the systems are come in picture and the knowledge levels have been implemented, policies have been implemented of this reused water to be used for various applications where human touch is not in place. Example, industrial application for their cooling tower applications, for HVAC, chiller water applications, or many other applications. This water can be comfortably used, but unfortunately, infrastructure is not in place to transfer this water to that place. That has to be taken in the place. Number two, in Hyderabad, especially when you take up certain denser areas like Gachibowli areas or Kokapet areas, many areas of the commercial buildings as well as residential buildings are very, very close by. If we can bring them to link it up these two places, of course, now new townships are coming like this only, like where the waste of the housing, residential extra water will be giving to the commercial areas. They will be using efficiently, and thereby net zero possibility is coming.
So
as of now, Honorable Prime Minister,
Bhaskar Garu, what you're saying is that
yes, sir,
the waste of residential, treated wastewater or used water of residential can be easily monetized and sold to the commercial establishment for non-potable applications. You think that there is a market, but the linkage is not being done, and there is no used water exchange platform to connect these two supply and demand segments. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's very interesting. Yeah, please go ahead.
You can see an example. I will tell you for an example, sir. In Gachibowli, if you look into that, Infosys is a campus where I operate 12 lakh liters a day they require. Where like their domestic requirement only 30% of the 12 lakh liters. The rest everything is only recycled water. The requirement is that. Whereas if you really look into opposite that or beside that, there are so many residential projects are there where lakhs of liters they are consuming and they are struggling to discharge that water.
Sure.
Now the issue has to come in that their excess water has to be given to this area with certain charges. Like example, they Infosys require a good quality of water. Maybe that residential project has to give similar water quality at some cost. Or alternatively, they can give raw sewage and pay to Infosys at some cost so that they can manage themselves to their quality levels. If this kind of a bridge can be brought in by the government of Telangana or whichever agencies are involved in this, thereby we can save huge water. That's one of the areas, sir. Like when you look into that, construction, example, some of the governments in Gurgaon and all, they have a policy that they are using this treated water only for construction application. Like that kind of an applications, these waters are less tedious water, treated water, comfortably they can use for construction. Only that either a small awareness has to be brought in that people should not drink that because this is not being treated to the potable level.
Thank you. I think these are very, very valuable suggestions. So one way, in absence of a robust regulatory system, the suggestion you are making is to create an economy, circular economy format in this, so that the waste of one particular segment can be used as a resource for the other segment and mutually can be beneficial in the whole process. Thereby, there will be a self-discipline that could come in this whole game. I think this is super useful. Now,
I have two more points, if it permits.
Yeah, please go ahead. Quickly, you can make those 2 points.
Number one, the actual problem is a lot of people think that using of a sewage treated water is because of the color, smell, and psychological feelings. Number one, all these color issues will come not because of STP's problem, it is majority because of the basement ventilation problem. Okay. Unfortunately, that areas has to be totally overlooked areas. Unless basement ventilation problems are not addressed, this problem will not settle. Sure. This is more of a psychological problem to be addressed, sir. That will help a lot to bring the efficiency improvement here.
Yeah.
Point number one. Point number two is that the other point is that a lot of people think that this is an optional challenge is there because of the regulation, not because of the self-discipline. Number three, because of such psychology, people are going with a very low class, unskilled people, thereby the qualities of being not maintained. In turn, everybody is under the impression that the sewage treatment plant waters cannot be brought into the decent levels, which regulation has to bring in to use with the skilled labor, thereby this entire problems will be addressed.
You're raising
That's one of the areas
point.
You have to look into.
Yeah, you're raising another important point. Apart from having regulation in terms of monitoring, I think like the way many countries have done, they only have to engage trained, certified professionals for managing these assets. So that is completely absent in this case. And that's one of the reasons you believe is actually resulting in underperformance of these private STPs. I'm just
last point.
Time. Yeah, last point, Bhaskar. Yeah.
Yeah, one more last point, sir. People like us we are ready to set up, if the government is supporting a small STPs up to the tune of 5 MLD, 10 MLD, where we can treat that water, subject to that water, there is a market has been created for these kind of applications. Thereby, load will be reduced a lot on the main STPs. This is one of the important points has to be looked into that, sir. And as we are talking about net carbon issues and all, net zero policies and all, unless until we address these areas, it is a far away to go for these of the areas.
Thank you, Bhaskar Garu. I think you raised very, very valuable points. Number one, if we can fix the problem of private STPs, the pressure on the public system will come down. The pressure to establish new treatment plants by the city authorities would also be minimized. That's number one. Second is, without fixing this problem, net neutrality that the building community is speaking about cannot be achieved. I think from both perspectives, we need to fix this problem. Thank you very much for your valuable suggestions.
One more second, sir, if you don't mind. Organizations like Indian Plumbing Association are there to support departments, and there are so many consultants are in place where we are ready to support the systems, and as an advisor role we can do, which already they are supportive system and advisories for Amrut stream also.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So
thank
I'm just conscious of the time. Thank you for your valuable suggestions and offer of IPA to support the cause of this used water management. Greatly appreciated. So Mr.
Thank you,
Arora, your hand is up. Would you like to quickly ask a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chari. Mr. Chari, I advocate the same point what you raised initially, that grey water and blackish water should be separate, and we should use the grey water after a small treatment, and blackish water fecal sludge we can treat in cluster way, or any of the different solutions are available. My most of points covered by Mr. Bhaskar. Basically, we are from same trail, and he is heading IPA Hyderabad chapter. I am from Jaipur, and almost same points whatsoever I want to raise covered by the Mr. Bhaskar. My point is we should involve NGOs like IPA, IGBC, and CREDI. They involve and they get the information from the industry, all the buildings, whatsoever their problems. If they're not able to run the STBs, they should contact all these organizations and they support them. Second one, we should involve few of startups. These startups can get the facility, whatsoever the water they collect from the buildings, that can be utilized in any public place, for park, for lawn, and for industry, and that payment should be made by them through any mode, like from government department, from industry department, or through direct industry, because all of industries get the water without subsidy, and they are always in scarcity. So that involve the industry department. They collect all this water, and further treatment if required, they can do. So this can be possible, and CPHO also can involve there, and they invite volunteers. These volunteers can be trained, and after these volunteers, without any supposed to get monetary benefit, they can involve there. So most of points already covered. Again, I have to thanks to all panelists and Mr. Chari, you and Mr. Bhaskar, Mr. Chaurasia. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Arora, because you made a very good point. We need to sort of promote some startups who could play the role of aggregators, who could actually bridge the gap between the demand and supply, as Mr. Bhaskar said. Thank you very much for your advice. So I think we have exceeded the time, but we are not completely conclusive. That's actually is very, very evident. So I would again draw in for 2 minutes or a minute. If Neetuji is still there, I would like to bring her in to check with her, is there any way we can strengthen the regulation? I think one common suggestion that's coming out through this conversation is that there is a need for strengthening the regulation. There's a need for defining the role of the city government in terms of monitoring. Can we take this agenda forward? Is it possible? I think Neetuji is not there. I would request Dr. Chaurasia, what are your perspectives on this? From the national government's point of view, can we issue an advisory? Eventually, the Honorable Prime Minister didn't say it has to be only public STP. He said, Honorable Prime Minister said, used water should not be discharged into the water body. He didn't say very clearly, or it didn't mean that only government should invest STPs. The private sector STPs should not be regulated, or should not be controlled, or should not be monitored. So in a way, we have a mandate, sir. We have a mandate to deal with this. So can we bring out an advisory? Can we bring out a direction to all the states to look into this matter carefully and integrate this agenda in the forthcoming Swachh Sarvekshan and give a certain amount of weightage? I'm sorry if I'm putting you unnecessarily on the spot, but I thought, it's important. I'm very emotional about this subject. So that's why you please take me in a positive way.
Yes, Professor Chari, you also know I am also equally emotional about this subject. So whatever you are telling, it is in fact same level of I say feeling I am also having. And Swachh Sarvekshan definitely whatever next edition comes, these private STPs wherever it is properly maintained, we'll try to see how it comes in the fold. But two three things you mentioned and other members also, that is especially very important, that private sector may whatever STPs are going to be created, their problems need to be studied and solution to be provided, so they can take lead and more let us say this used water burden they take on themselves, and responsibility on government reduces only to some of the area where such type of, let us say, association is not there. So this is one thing. And second thing, regarding this reuse of treated water, I think whatever is coming from the apartments and other places, that treated water is of quite good quality. And in most of the cities, I will find that with 13, 14, 15 finance commission grants, sufficient drains are available. Maybe in some parts it may not be there, as we have discussed in that deliberations. So even it comes through natural or some of the man-made drains, I think not only it will keep on recharging and it will be good for the environment of the city, but at local places wherever need arises, that can be utilized. But all is needed some model document studying in 2-3 cities and different model that will guide all other cities to localize, prepare their plan suiting to that requirement, because some guidance only we can give. The city level solution has to be evolved by brilliant planning there, and this is going to economize not only cost or and other thing, but in many fold it is going to be helpful. So I think there is a lot of scope to work on it. And since this point has been raised, I am learning and finding that what are the challenges available. So some point of time, these points have been captured. Let us now work together. Whatever the requirements are there, our points is still to be addressed. We will work together.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your positive feedback on this. So are there any other questions that we have? Anybody would like to flag? We can take one or two questions. Otherwise, this agenda is super important. Anybody else? Mr. Vishal, would you like to come in? I heard you speak. Okay. Mr. Vishal, you can mute your speaker. So, friends, I think this webinar is used to sensitize ourselves about the challenge before us in terms of private STPs doing its job. It's a work in progress. We may not have been conclusive in terms of what needs to be done, but a lot of ideas have come through this conversation. We are going to consolidate these ideas. We will work with the state governments. We will work with the city governments. We will create a nice template for the state and city governments to act on, a model documents to act on. Likewise, as Dr. Chaurasia mentioned, we would also work with, collectively, we will work with the national government to make sure that this agenda gets amplified, gets due attention, so that, as Dr. Chaurasia said, the polluter should pay for it, polluter should solve her own problem, and only certain portion of the used water can be treated through public sector investments. I think if we can move in that direction, I think our goal of achieving Swachh Bharat 2.0 will be much faster. Dr. Mahendra, you have any quick comment?
Otherwise, Professor Chari, I have two small points whenever you give opportunity.
Please go ahead, sir. Dr. Mahendra, just make your point, and then I will ask Dr. to conclude. I think Dr. Say you should conclude them. Yeah.
So my point is, I totally agree with Dr. Chari and whatever suggestions mentioned by Mr. Bhaskar. So since it is about strengthening the regulatory mechanism, I just want to add one or two thoughts what that occurred to me. if we can categorize this private STPs from the residential, industrial, and especially the hospitality and healthcare. Okay, these are the things. If we can categorize, maybe then it will be easy even for the startups like us who can, in fact, enable this particular monitoring mechanism for the regulatory authorities, and that way it can be actually, it's basically ease of monitoring, what I feel. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Dr. Chaurasia ji, please.
That's a good point, Mahendra Garu. Dr. Chaurasia, over to you.
Yes.
You can probably give your concluding comments also.
Yeah. Thank you. My point is related to, I think you are about to visit, I think, Karad and Malkapur. I learned there for 24/7 that capturing that thing. Fortunately, few days back, I went there only to see their wastewater management system. And what I'm telling, it is from public perspective that equally holds good for even private people also, whether they are having in their RWA or some other association and other methods are working. There, what we could see only 2 points, that leadership plays a very important role. One single leadership person, whether it is executive or elected leadership, if they could realize and understand this, that which way we have to go, they can not only take entire that system, but even people also. So this is one area, once you are going to capture that, you will realize that a leadership can make what level of change. And in future, the more and more focus, I think ours being at central level and at regional level, to only motivate and train the leaders. After that, below, they will be able to take care of themselves. And the example is Karad and Malkapur both, where a single person's motivation not only properly convince all people to treat, even to convince to pay them a share for constructing this closed network. And over and above, the biggest sector where this used water can be utilized is agriculture, industry, horticulture, construction. They are minuscule, 4%, 5%, 10%. But around every town, there is a huge agricultural field available in country in most of the towns. Thereby, even putting 2-3 kilometers this PVC pipe, HDPE pipe, the entire area can be treated. And here we should not go that all standards should come, everything will become, then we will start. The people are working. This is a organic sort of pure type of water, not industrial one. Even if you don't test, don't do anything, if you treat up to secondary level and utilize in these fields, no harm is going to happen. After 4-5 years, of course, I will tell that we have to work and strengthen it. So 2 things, major one agriculture and second leadership. These 2 things are very, very important to drive this sector, whether it is in private or whether it is in government. Thank you.
Great points. I think leadership around circularity, leadership around used water management is equally important. As you said, both in the public sector as well as in the private sector. I think that is going to keep the the momentum as we envisage in this. So thank you very much for joining this, all of you for joining and staying so late on a weekend, second Saturday. Greatly appreciate for your participation. We're going to consolidate this understanding, consolidate all the the queries as well as some of the recommendations that came out during this conversation and circulate to all of you, including the state and the city governments, and a copy will be marked to Government of India too. Thank you very much for taking out your time, and happy weekend. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much.